Welcome, everyone, to episode 52 of the Thundercraps podcast, where we forge through the shitstorm that was WCW Thunder. I'm your host, the best-looking man in professional wrestling, Josh Kaiser. And joining me today, stomping you like narcs at a biker rally, Kyle Hoagland.
What's going on, everybody? Man, let me just say, I understand that there are going to be a couple episodes where it's going to be hard for us to try and hit like that 45 to an hour, and this might be one of the biggest nothing shows that I've ever watched so far, and sadly there is a lot to talk about, even though there really isn't much at all to talk about.
Yeah, there really is. It's a weird episode. Every time we get these Thunders that are pre-taped, they're already gonna be less than stellar usually, but they're even worse when they're pre-taped before a pay-per-view that's gonna follow a pay-per-view, because nothing of substance can happen because there's a pay-per-view where all of this stuff's gonna happen.
Right. So everybody who's in, I think they're still in Salt Lake City, if I recall. Obviously, they're not going to give away endings or anything to them, or else you basically have, thousands of people who are there who there's no sense in buying the pay-per-view if they know basically everything that happens. So it makes sense. It's a terrible strategy for doing shows.
It's really bad.
But once again, it's kind of one of those, like, you could tell that Thunder still has yet been established as being like a flagship show. It feels just like it's Saturday night on a Thursday.
It is the B show of all B shows, and obviously nothing that's going to happen tonight is going to be of any substance when it comes to actual storylines that are meaningful.
Yep, correct. But you know what? We're still it's still an episode of Thunder. We still got to talk about it. There's still plenty of things to talk about, even if it is might have to do with some of the things that are, I guess, justifiably lacking of the show. But we're still going to call it out when we see it.
That we will. Of course, we haven't said it yet, but it is Thunder 52. It is February 25th, 1999. Super Brawl 9 is in the books. And we get our opening. It's Welcome to Thunder. It's you can tell it's been pre-recorded. Tony Schiavone's audio sounds terrible. He sounds
like he's sick.
He sounds unenthusiastic as can be. And he lets us know the NWO, the Cat, and many others will be here tonight. So if that doesn't sell you on the hour and a half, or really a 2-hour show that you got look forward to, I don't know what will.
You couldn't even Bret Hart's in the main event. You can't even tease that Bret Hart's here.
Nope.
Jesus.
We opened the show though after that with our first of many replays tonight. It's catching us up on Scott Steiner and DDP, going all the way back to Scott Steiner hitting on Kimberly, to the him driving away in the car and tossing her out of the vehicle. We find a lawyer who represents Scott Steiner. Apparently Scott Steiner is filing a grievance against DDP for that attack near the car, in excess of $1 million and a 15-year sentence to jail. So Scott Steiner apparently really not playing around. And then, of course, his comment about how if he beats Page at Super Brawl, he'll get Kimberly for 30 days. He does, in fact, beat Diamond Dallas Page at Super Brawl, but we find out from Tony Schiavone that DDP did not agree to that stipulation, so I guess we'll have to wait and see if he is going to be able to get Kimberly or not.
How much money do you want to bet that he didn't accept the stipulation, but no one said anything about it, or it was never even mentioned that whether he accepted it or not? Did you watch Super Brawl? Did they mention it at all? You watched Super Brawl.
I did, but actually for this match, I had it muted at the time. I was doing something else.
Dare
I was
you?
watching it in the background, so I do not know what commentary said. So I can't report on that. I apologize.
Because what I was curious about is if they were they went in assuming that the stipulation was what it was, and then when Steiner wound up winning, then they kind of backpedaled on Nitro or Thunder, being like, he didn't take the stipulation. You know what I mean? Instead of letting us know
Right.
at the start that no, the stipulation is not there. I mean, you already have our money. You could tell us whether the stipulation is there or not. It's not like we're going to ask for our money back because that was the match that I wanted to
Well,
watch.
I was going to say the stipulation of Kimberly for 30 days is not the reason a single fucking person bought Super Brawl 9.
Right. I don't think anybody was caring about whether or not the big bad booty daddy got 30 days with Kimberly. Maybe 14-year-old me was somewhat intrigued, but hey, if it ain't happening to me, I don't care.
Oh, that's right. We do find out that the big booty daddy, Scott Steiner, wrestled Goldberg on Nitro, and Goldberg, of course, going to win that match. And we find out that the big return of Rick Steiner, he is back. So apparently him and Scott Steiner's feud is not over. So you'll be happy to know that we are pushing over a year now with these two. So
you're saying Judy Bagwell's going to come back?
Well, we can wait and see.
We can only hope.
We go to our opening match of the night, and out comes Hack. You might remember Hack from being in a skit for Raven at his house, where he's referred to as Jim. Of course, this is Sandman from ECW. He comes out here known as just Hack, not Hardcore Hack, nothing else, just Hack.
Or not Jim with a blazer or a popped collared sweater vest shirt that he was wearing. This is a complete we just dumped that idea of him being like a hoity-toity ritzy guy, and he is now the exact opposite without any explanation whatsoever of why.
Yep, he is, of course, going to wear barbed wire all over his shirt, which seems like a terrible way to wrestle.
I mean, as you would.
He is going to be wrestling Damien, so this is, of course, as you can imagine, the opening bout you'd see on a pre-taped Thunder. We find out he did battle Bam Bam Bigelow on Nitro, which I feel like is a much bigger match to debut on, but okay. Damien is going to immediately attack Hack and get hurt because he's attacking barbed wire. Then Hack is going to spend the first 2 minutes awkwardly, slipping out of the barbed wire so they can actually have a match here. As for the match itself, it was you try to have some hardcore spots. There was a point where Damien is going to moonsault off the top rope, and he landed right on his fucking face.
He sure did.
Bad. Holy shit. But he has a mask on, so he's all good. Eventually, Hack is going to drop kick a chair into Damien's face, who's caught in the Tree of Woe. We're going to get Singapore cane shots for Hack, and then Damien's going to get the Singapore cane and then hit Hack with it. So multiple Singapore cane shots, chairs. We got barbed wire in this match, and a Russian leg sweep for the 3 count. That's going to how the match is going to end. I give it a 1.75 because you sit there and you have, by the way, Hack rules, as though we're supposed to pretend that it's not Raven's rules, just with Hack. But we have that. We get all these hardcore moments, and it ends with a fucking Russian leg sweep.
I actually gave this 2 stars. I thought it was pretty physical. I think both guys got their spots in. It was a little repetitive. I think Hack did that, jumping off of somewhere to do like a guillotine on the back of the head while Damien was draped over either like the top rope or a guardrail. It looked cool. It didn't look exactly,
It felt
aerobatic.
very ECW-ish, though.
Yeah.
Sure.
It was crude, but once again, it's a hardcore match. I was okay with it.
It's a Hack's rules match, all right?
I'm sorry. The Singapore cane Russian leg sweep is actually something he did a lot in ECW. So I'm not shocked that he made that his finisher, where he uses the Singapore cane as part of his finisher into a Russian leg sweep. I understand it's a Russian leg sweep. I get it. But it is a signature move of Sandman.
But he's just I don't understand what the Singapore cane has anything to do with that move, other than he's holding him with it. But it doesn't seem like it would add any extra damage when you're falling backwards and the Singapore cane is on your front part.
Well, I think it's because it's supposed to be under the neck or the chin, and then he just brings it back. I don't. Once again, it sounds like I'm trying to justify this. I agree. It's not a Bryan Adams tilt-a-whirl backbreaker. I get it, but still, I get why he's using that. It's one of, like I said, if people who follow Sandman, it's a signature move that he does with the kendo stick / Singapore cane or whatever they want to call this damn thing. But I still felt like it was an okay start to the show. I think it got enough people excited. They were wrestling all over the place, in and out of the ring. And I'm more interested in, I like hardcore matches. Sorry, hack rules matches.
What's your favorite hack rules match?
So far it's been this one. I mean, it's been a very. We'll see how the day goes, but I'm sure there's going to be many that are going to be in the annals of history. So right now, I think the bar has been set. Let's put it that way.
Fair enough. After this, we get our second replay of the night. It's still photos from the pay-per-view, which, of course, you expect to see these kind of replays. This is Hogan and Flair. It shows their whole, clips from them. They have a bloody match. Eventually, Hogan, of course, is going to retain after the woman in red, who, of course, we know is Tori Wilson, comes out, as well as a man wearing one of those ski masks that beat up Hogan, or beat up Flair on Nitro. He helps, this masked man helps Hogan win the match, pulls off the mask, and you find out it is David Flair. He is with the NWO. He has turned his face on his father, and he is with Tori Wilson.
And that's okay. I mean, I'll be the lady in red, as they said, and Tori Wilson looked absolutely stunning. I am definitely looking forward to more of Tori Wilson. I'm trying to think of myself. What's my favorite Thunder highlight with Tori Wilson in it? And they're countless. There's too many for me to name off right now. I just can't wait to go over each and every one of them with you.
After this, we go to our next match. Hector Garza, who seems to be the staple of these pre-taped Thunders. He's in action against Psychosis. We pretty much spend most of this match with commentary discussing David Flair and his turning on his father and how beautiful Tori Wilson is. Bobby Heenan says, "Give me a month with her in a hotel room, and I'll figure out I'll get to the bottom of all this." This match in general is kind of sloppy. Garza loses his footing multiple times, but commentary does not give a shit because they are only talking about the Flair. We get a top rope hurricanrana from Psychosis, and then the guillotine leg drop off the top for the win. I gave it 2 stars. I thought the match was good at times. I thought it was sloppy at times. And commentary team didn't give a shit about the match, and that's about as much of a shit as I gave about the match as well.
Yeah, I gave it 2 stars. I actually would have rated this higher, but the chemistry just wasn't there. Too many noticeable botches. Too many noticeable botches. That kind of put a damper on a pretty good offensive match. I think when they were doing things right, it looked really nice. I think the beginning of the match, I think there was actually some good, some backflips and a couple of cool athletic aerobatic, kind of looking. I was okay with that. Everything looked good. But then I think the moment that it felt like they either just didn't. Like I said, I'm not a professional wrestler, and I know there are certain wrestlers that maybe discuss their matches with the guy they're going against, before they go in, or they kind of like, hey, we've wrestled so many times, we kind of know what we do when we're in the ring. This just felt like they did neither thing. They just kind of like, we'll just, entertain the crowd and we'll kind of like freelance it as we go. And you could definitely tell that there were just a lot of moves that either Psychosis wasn't ready when Garza tried to do it, or Garza just straight up just couldn't get his footing in and screwed up. I think Psychosis did a pretty good job of making up for it. There were a couple botches that I think he knew how to step out of pretty quickly, but they were noticeable enough that I couldn't get this above a 2-star.
Yep, couldn't agree more. And I was watching this and I was thinking, Hector Garza, I was kind of thinking, I feel like I never gave him enough credit as a wrestler, and because I'd see him do some stuff, and I'm like, he's got some talent. But then I see these botches, and I'm like, I think that's why I never gave him credit. Like, it looks like he has the talent, but he just can't put it all together. I think he has
the athleticism and at least enough of, training to do things. But after that, I mean, you gotta be able to play well with the person that you're going up against, or else it just looks like a really shitty ballet. And that's what it kind of looked like. He was trying to do cool stuff that, it's like you have 2 people that know how to dance, but if you don't know how to dance with your partner, it's going to look bad.
Definitely. After this, we get our third replay of the night. It's again Super Brawl replay, so we're getting the still photos. It's talking about the tag team tournament finals. Malenko and Benoit are able to win their first match against Hennig and Wyndham, but they lose 30 seconds later, and that final falls as Malenko is strangled with a belt. They're choked out, and Wyndham and Hennig win the match. They are your tag team champions.
That sounds like a really shitty match. Overall on a pay-per-view?
It was a good match with a bad ending. So, typical WCW, right?
Well, it felt like they had a really good match that Benoit and Malenko won, and then they just restarted with a 30-second choke out, and then the match is automatically over.
Yep. Following this, we get our next match of the night, Ernest Miller with Sonny Ono wrestling Stevie Ray. So Ernest Miller going to come out to the Glacier's entrance, which I think, Kyle, you made a comment that was not happy about something with it.
Yeah, when he was coming down, I think first of all, I know he doesn't like the music. I think the lasers weren't going. He was complaining about there was no lasers. Then I think he was complaining to a stage manager just in general because he didn't like the snow machine. He gets in the ring and the snow is all going all over the place, and he's not exactly digging it. I thought it was funny. I was actually really hoping they would actually do this. I feel like he bought the gimmick 2.5 weeks ago, and I haven't seen anything yet to show of it. I think it's the first time we've seen the cat on Thunder probably since then also. So I guess in his defense, he hasn't given us the opportunity to see him come out with the entrance. I was actually hoping he was going to wear the contact lens. I was very bummed when I didn't see it. Or the helmet.
We get Ernest Miller cuts a promo here, says he, starts calling a dude in the crowd a midget, says he's going to stomp a mud hole in his ass. And then that brings out Stevie Ray, his opponent for the night. How about Stevie Ray's get-up this week? Dude,
I almost fell asleep watching his pants. I felt hypnotized.
It was they're very wild with the black and white stripes here. The match was okay at times. We get Pussycat chants loud in the crowd, which I thought was pretty clever. You have your issues with Mickey J this week, Kyle, and this match was another example
part one
of that.
Of it. Oh my god, dude! First of all, I don't know who did it first. I'm pretty sure it was the cat who did the first completely blatant low blow, and Mickey J just kind of he doesn't even push him away or chastise him. He just kind of gives this side look, as if I don't know, like a disappointed dad just gave you a come on, dude. Really? And I'm just sitting there dude, do your job. That's any other match, that's a disqualifiable offense unless the story says don't disqualify him, clearly. And then not even 30 seconds later, Stevie Ray does one to the cat. And once again, Mickey J's all right, well, eye for an eye, I guess. It's almost like he knows he's already put his 2 weeks in, and this is him repping his final night.
Just getting out, yeah. Finishing his time.
Create no enemies. Just don't burn any bridges and just get out of the company.
He is going to get knocked out of this match as Stevie Ray.
God damn it, Mickey J.
Scoop slams the cat, and his feet knock into Mickey J. I made a comment a couple weeks ago during that steel cage match where a similar spot happened that caused this. Actually, now that I think about it, that was last week's episode, right?
Yeah, it was with Charles Robinson in the steel cage.
So this crowd now saw 2 referee bumps happening the same exact way. So great job there, guys. Last week's I gave kudos to how smooth it looked. This week's looked like shit. So with Mickey J knocked out, Sonny Ono's going to come in. He's going to kick Stevie Ray in the back of the head. Stevie Ray's going to look like a fly just landed on him. Slapjack to Sonny Ono. This is going to bring Vince out. Vince is going to slapjack Stevie Ray, and that's going to get the cat your win here. I gave the match 2 stars because I thought the match was actually okay despite some of the weird Mickey J shit. And I knew there was going to be some sort of DQ-ish finish. But I thought it was okay. I think you hated it a little more than I did, though.
Oh, I hated it a lot more than you did. I gave it a 1.5. The shenanigans of Mickey J, the lack of chemistry between the cat and Stevie Ray. This was not a serious match. This was clear that this was more of a storytelling match than anything. They didn't go at it, They really they didn't showcase either one of them their any type of skill. It was like the Cat was just trying to, bob and weave around Stevie Ray, and then when Stevie Ray would get his hands on him, he would, beat him up in the corner or give him a couple of moves. But the match wasn't good. The storytelling wasn't good. I don't know why. I understand that last time we saw Stevie Ray was pretty mad that Vince is going through his bag and taking the slapjack. And then I guess this is just a continuation of that. I was just surprised that was the ending as well. I don't know, man. I love the Cat just like anybody else, but I did not like that he went over in this way with Stevie Ray. I was actually kind of looking forward to either the Cat going over
so
in
you're really
his own
sad
way.
Stevie Ray lost this match? Is that what you're telling me?
I think I was happy to finally see to see the Cat keeping asking for. He always keeps asking for like scrubs to come down and fight him. And he finally gets somebody, and he looks like a chump. Like he didn't. I would have been fine actually if this was a good match.
He beat him, man. All right.
Okay, I get. Jesus Christ, dude. I understand what you're doing to me. You're deflecting here. But if this was a good match with the ending being Vince screwing it up, that's one thing. The match was bad. Mickey J was worse, and it's just I think the whole thing was nobody looked good. To me, a match has got to get somebody over. This match put nobody over, even with the fact that the Cat got a win on Stevie Ray. He looked like a bitch. He was completely like overpowered and outclassed by Stevie fucking Ray, and in the end, he still won because Vince showed up. So I just didn't like the choreography at all, and like I said, the match wasn't great. Mickey J was a pile of shit.
After the match, we get our fourth replay of the night. It's Hennig and Wyndham after their match at Super Brawl. They're in the back with the titles. Malenko Benoit come in and beat the shit out of him. So I'm not sure who's supposed to be the bad guy in this.
As the faces they are, it's the Rey Mysterio treatment,
right? We then get our WCW Saturday Night promo of the week. We find out the Disciples in action. So is Saturn, the Cat, and a red hot Jerry Flynn as well as Ming. So Jerry Flynn, man, is the winning streak continue here on Saturday night? I don't know.
Tate, February edition of or actually it'll probably be March's edition of WCW the magazine. It better have Jerry Flynn on the cover.
We'll then get our fifth replay of the night. We find out it's Booker T and Bret Hart. So on Nitro, Booker T cuts a promo about wrestling Bret Hart to be the number one contender for the U.S. title. We then get a lot of clips for their match. I feel like they could have just shown us the match with the amount of clips we got. It's back and forth. Eventually, Booker T is going to reverse a sunset flip into a 3 count, almost like a schoolboy, or not a schoolboy, but like a pin sequence there. And he's going to be your number one contender now. It actually looked like it was probably a pretty good match that we missed.
I actually watched it. It was like 14 minutes long, which is probably why they had to clip it.
Well, our clips were 5 minutes long, so that doesn't totally surprise me. We then get Raven and Canyon come out to the ring with Chastity. That's Raven's sister. Chastity's dressed like Raven,
who also doesn't look like what she looked like in those videos. No. What was the point of these videos? If they're introducing 2 new characters in Chastity and Jim, and then they come in here and it's a complete just abandonment from who
literally
they
nothing.
Officially are.
Not only that, the only thing we got out of all those videos that is consistent with what's happening is Canyon is now dressed in his Versace.
I was gonna say, yeah, because Canyon's looking fabulous.
But we don't know. Hack is apparently Hack now. He's not Jim. Raven's gonna have an issue with this guy coming in saying he's hardcore, and he said, he starts saying Raven's rules came before Hack's rules, so at least they acknowledge that. But Raven is, seems like he's wrestling. He doesn't have any problem that he's had all this time off and it was in his head. Like all that seems to be gone. Chastity's just here, dressed like part of Raven's like rebuilding the flock almost. And then also that whole thing with Piper's pictures being in his mom's closet. Like none of that. It's just all like, forget about the fact that we showed you it 3 weeks in a row.
That's it. At least Canyon's still dressed up.
Shivani is going to be quite enamored with Raven's sister. Talks about her a lot throughout the match. We in the match, I guess I have not mentioned what that match actually is, but it is Raven and Canyon tagging up against Villano 5 and El fucking Dandy. So, as you can imagine, there's not much to talk about in this match. El Dandy's actually going to get a hot tag and slap everybody in response.
That was amazing. We say slaps, but they were literally slaps.
They were literally slaps. Raven is then going to eventually do his drop toe hold onto a chair, which is a move he talked about earlier about when he mentioned he was, the original hardcore guy here in WCW. He's then going to hit an even flow for the 1, 2, 3. No, apparently not a 3. Everyone's not sure what happened. They recount it. 1, 2, 3, and that's your match. I gave it a star 3/4. I thought the match was just was what it was. It was a squash match. But that fucking ending, what was that all about?
I have no idea. I actually did. I gave it 2 stars. Overall, so far, none of these matches we've watched have earned anything higher than an okay rating. I think we basically have given 2 stars or lower on basically everything. There were good spots. But once again, I feel like there was no tag continuity.
When you say good spots, you mean like when El Dandy slapped the shit out of everybody, right?
Right. Dude, that was highlight of the whole thing. But once again, the whole tag continuity with the ref. I don't want to say that if Mickey J were there, it would have been any better. But Johnny Boone definitely didn't come out looking any better. There were a lot of legal men, illegal men. For example, El Dandy was the legal man the entire time, and Villano takes the fucking loss. So that was a little bit of a those things bug me. There were a couple of sloppy exchanges and a real weak finish due to the ref just not counting to 3. But there were cool enough spots to at least get this out of the 1 3/4 spot. And I think I give that credit mostly to Canyon and Raven, obviously. But other than that, the slaps came in, and just, like I said, that last 30 seconds of the match was just the tempo and just the feeling was just so weird.
It's pretty much par for the course this week. We go to commercial and we come back to see a Stone Cold Steve Austin fan on the camera, which they immediately have to pan off of. I just thought it was funny. We then get our 6th replay of the night. It's still shots from Super Brawl for Goldberg and Bam Bam. Goldberg is going to, of course, win that match. We then move to our next match of the night, Blitzkrieg in action. So we talked about him briefly a week or 2 ago that he had made his debut, but we had not yet seen him here on Thunder. He's in action against Juventud Guerrera, and we're going to see our first and only sign of the night, Blitzkrieg rocks. So apparently somebody was really into the one match they saw on Nitro before he came here to this taping of Thunder, and really liked what they saw about Blitzkrieg. One thing I got to comment about Blitzkrieg, and you noticed it as well, it looks like he's wearing his dad's wrestling attire.
It is. It looked like he donned the persona of Blitzkrieg, where he found a man slightly larger than him dying in a field somewhere, and his dying wish was for him to take the role of Blitzkrieg, and he hasn't yet filled into the outfit. And here's the thing, Blitzkrieg, give him credit where credit's due. Dude's really fucking fast and really athletic.
Really athletic.
Does a lot of just unnecessary flips. Let's put it that way. But he looks like a normal ass dude. There's no muscle tone in this guy. He has, you probably have more muscle definition than Blitzkrieg. And I think that's the reason why he hasn't really filled in. I think once he hits the gym, maybe does a little more arm day, maybe he'll fill into that a little bit more. But it really does look like a really cheaply made. If there's something close to that, I'm sure I can order from a Halloween costume store.
Yeah, but like you said, he is athletic as hell. He's actually going to fucking fly to the outside of the ring, pretty much overshoots Hoovy in the process. The match is going to be pretty high intense, high action. There's going to be, to your point, a lot of flips, a lot of spinning. Eventually, Hoovy looks like he's going to set up for the 450. Blitzkrieg's going to move, but Hoovy is going to be recovered shortly thereafter and wins with the Hoovy driver. I actually gave this match 3 stars. I thought it was a very entertaining match. I think it's amazing how new Blitzkrieg is. He looks 100 times better than Lash LaRue for 2 people that are both really new to the business at this point. And I liked that Hoovy won the match with the Hoovy driver when he's been winning matches with the 450. It's nice to see other signature moves being the way to end the match. So I was probably a little bit higher than I needed to be for this match, but I thought it was a great match on a night full of garbage matches.
Yeah, that's what I saw. When I saw you rated this 3, I almost think that it's like I gotta give one of these matches a bone, and I think that's what this is the Kaiser bone of the night. You threw to this one. I gave it 2.5 stars, which personally I think is a little bit more of a realistic, accurate rating. Nice acrobatic spots. You can tell the fluidity just isn't all there yet, but still a nice showing by both guys. Especially considering, like you said, Blitzkrieg's only probably wrestled a handful of times that we've seen. But I think the thing I had a problem with this match, and I think the crowd started kind of getting a little restless in this match as well. Both of them were kind of stopping and starting, and there were too many gaps in the offense. It wasn't really when the offense was going, it was high octane, and then I just felt like they just stopped, and then it would be like Hoovy like going to the crowd or Blitzkrieg was kind of prancing around after doing a certain move. It just felt like nobody ever really took advantage of the position that they were in after doing a really nice set of offense. And like I said, I think the crowd kind of turned on this match because after a couple of near falls, it was almost like the crowd was like, all right, you're not fooling us. Like I think they all felt like all those near falls were for sure. No one was going to win at that point. And so I think the crowd just was almost like smarter than what the story that the wrestlers were telling. And because of that, I couldn't really give it much higher than a 2.5. But still, no, a good showing. I said I did enjoy the match.
After this, we get our 7th replay of the night. It stills from the Hall, Nash, Ray, and Conan tag team match at Super Brawl. The hair versus mask match, which, of course, Hall and Nash are going to win, and Ray is going to be have his mask removed. Then we're going to go to the Conan music video. So he has a new music video at this point. I fast forwarded right through that. I got to be honest, I didn't see anything worth watching there. We come back, and we have our 8th replay of the night. We're watching a match on Nitro, apparently. It starts out with Nash, Luger, and Liz, who is looking fine. Coming out, Nash has...
She really did. Usually I put notes down when I really notice something, and I don't know what it is about Miss Elizabeth in the late 90s in WCW, but I think it's just because when she was in the WWE, it was much more conservative, more like, as if maybe she was like a Vanna White, where she had a little bit more,
right,
more prestige to her, or it just felt like she was like royalty. But in this, in this one, she just looks like a hot chick at a biker bar, and I am fucking down with it.
Hey, you and me both, brother. So Nash is going to get on the microphone. He's going to apologize a little bit. Says Hall maybe took a few cheap shots in their tag team match the night before. He apologizes to Ray and says, you know what, this mask doesn't fit, so you can have it back. Out comes Rey Mysterio, who, of course, at this point, we've all seen him without his mask, but he does look like a 12-year-old boy at this point. He says, it ain't about the mask. He's like, I want to get a piece of you. Nash calls him a no-limit soldier ripoff because he's wearing, camo.
The white-black camo, yeah.
Yeah. They're going to end up having an impromptu match here. Nash is going to absolutely level Ray with a hip thrust to start the match out. Ray is then going to get a face buster and a face smasher, Bronco buster, and Nash is ultimately going to go for a jackknife powerbomb. Mimics that he's putting a cigarette out on Ray's back, puts him up. Ray's then going to punch him at the top, drop Nash down, gets the quick 3 count, and he escapes out of there with the win. Of course, Nash is stunned. Ray's able to get a little bit, his comeuppance, if you will, on Nash. And it's nice to see the replay, their whole match here. What I took from all of that, though, man, those Nitro crowds in the 90s were hot.
Yeah, definitely they were. But here's the thing: there was probably things to get hot about. I think when you go into shows like that, it's especially during that in the late '90s. We've been watching enough wrestling now in this era that obviously wrestling was one of the biggest things going on in like '97 through 2000, and so I'm not shocked by how hot it is versus the, I guess you could say, suspect at best crowds that we get with Thunder. But yeah, I mean, this was really big, especially because Ray got the win. I mean, it was hot anyways, but they lost their shit when Ray won.
Yeah, he needed to get that too. We then move to our main event, Disco Inferno and Bret Hart. So that was an unexpected main event for this Salt Lake City crowd. And to your point though, we find out Bret Hart's in the main event right before commercial break leading into this match. So you think they would advertise Bret Hart being on Thunder for like the first time in fucking forever, maybe at the beginning of the show, but they don't. Disco Inferno is going to come out first, and he's going to sing a parody of "O Canada" to rip on Bret Hart. He is singing a parody of "O Canada" for Heel Heat to a heel in front of an American crowd as a heel.
I don't see any. What are you trying to say? Are you saying that there's something wrong with that formula? Because I mean, convince me otherwise.
I don't get it sometimes. It was a good parody though. I thought he did quite well with it. You know?
Yeah, it would have been a great parody too if if this was in Canada against a Canadian face. But yeah, whatever. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do, man? It's first of all, let's just address the elephant in the room. This main event shouldn't have existed. This is two heels. We still know, last I even knew, Bret Hart was in the NWO in some facet.
Well, so now that I think about it, is this Tony says, well, we will see the Cat and the NWO in action tonight. This is the only NWO members, if you count one or both of them as NWO members, that are on the card, right?
Yeah, unless they were talking about the replay of Nash versus Ray, which would be Stevie Ray was here.
Oh, you're right. Stevie Ray was here.
Well, there goes that there goes that conspiracy theory. But no, like I said, this match shouldn't have even existed. There's no heat between these two. There's no storyline between these two. There's two guys who are heels getting heat in a U.S. crowd with one of them making fun of Canada, just so it feels like Bret Hart's got a reason to go in there and, give Disco what's for, even though he's a goddamn heel. He came in this entire match, didn't act like a heel 1 second of it, and we'll talk more about the match, but this is like the throwaway of all throwaway main events. And the sad thing was, I mean, it was an okay match, but it didn't make me feel anything.
No, not much. I mean, it started out, we had 10 minutes, which I was like, okay, that could be good. But the first 2 or 3 minutes was Disco being the chicken shit heel, running outside, not letting him get the match started. He's going to then get dominated pretty hard for a majority of the match, where Bret Hart's going to basically spend most of it working the leg. He locks on a figure 4 in the middle of the ring. Disco, though, is finally going to grab the ropes. Bret Hart, though, is going to go to that middle rope and drop his middle rope elbow. Then there's a sharpshooter. Disco's going to tap out, and we fade to black almost instantly afterwards. I gave it 2.25 stars. Again, I think I was rating on the curve that was this night in a whole. It was probably not a 2.25 star match on most nights, but it was, to your point, we really didn't care about it. It was a technical match. It was bland, though, and it just was an abrupt, weird way to end a lame Thunder.
I gave it 1.75 stars. Really uninspiring effort by Bret. This was like I said, I don't want to burn bridges because I know one day we would love to have Bret on the show. But this was mailed in. Disco tried his best, but in the end, I don't think Bret gave him much to work with, and just end up being two guys doing the same non-wrestling offensive chokes, laying each other out on the ropes, a couple submission holds, some moves, some attacking in the back. I can until Brett started doing his 4 moves of doom, I don't know. Like, I could probably count how many wrestling moves were done on one finger. And that's what's kind of sad. And unfortunately, that was actually one of the moves of doom. I think it was a Russian leg sweep kind of earlier in the match with Brett. But then it was just, after that, it was just a lot of, 4 counts, a lot of pummeling in the corner, a lot of, a little bit of like smashing the heads on the stairs. And then just Disco being a chicken shit and trying to get away. The dude was in the figure 4, which felt like 8 minutes, and then finally gets out of it, and then just gets put right into a sharpshooter 30 seconds later and taps out. It was just, I don't know, man. Like, I'm okay with a methodical match, but this wasn't even that. I don't think Disco performed a single wrestling move. Maybe I'll go back and I'll be wrong, but I don't think he even performed anything that you would consider a grappling move. And like I said, and Brett just did the 4 or 5 moves of doom to win for a 9-minute match. Wasn't very happy with it.
And I can't blame you for any of that at all. You weren't happy with the match. I wasn't happy with this Thunder. I mean, this is the epitome of a pre-taped Thunder. This is the epitome of a pre-taped Thunder on a show that's following a pay-per-view. I guess if there's one positive that came from it, we got 8 replays. We know what happened at Super Brawl. So if you didn't watch Super Brawl, this Thunder would have made sure you knew what happened. But if you watched Super Brawl and you watched Nitro, you might as well have fucking just taken a nap and you didn't miss anything on this Thunder. But we go live again next week, so hopefully next week will be a better week. That said, what did you think about this week's episode?
I'm going to echo a lot of what you said. I wasn't a fan. I think we had 6 matches and a complete replay of a Nitro match. No stories really progressed unless you count the whole Stevie Ray Vince thing. And I get it. It's a pre-taped show before a pay-per-view. That's then going to air after the pay-per-view, so you're handcuffed. You're in a weird spot, and But so if that's what's going to happen, you better impress me with some good work. Give me a couple of matches that's going to be worth my time to watch. And all of the matches, for the most part, and I mean, once again, Blitzkrieg and Hoovy might have been kind of like the diamond in the rough, but everything else was pretty much a dud to me. It felt like no one wanted to be there. Outside of that match, who did put on a decent showing. The Psychosis Garza match looked like they were throwing pasta against the wall and hoping it would stick. The Cat Stevie Ray match was all sorts of jumbled fuck. And at the end, the Cat still went over. It was still weird to me. At least in that particular moment, I didn't like it. Hack and Damien was one of the most pedestrian hardcore matches I've ever seen. Though not for a lack of trying, it just never really hit that next gear that I think most hardcore matches hit. And by that, I mean, where were the toilet seats? We had a fucking Nitro match played in its entirety, which just feels like WWF 1995 all over again. And we had a main event with what felt like a zombified Bret Hart or a like Frankenstein Bret Hart who just went in there, did all the things that Bret Hart is programmed to do. And then the moment he won, he just fucking leaves. He doesn't raise his hand. He doesn't stay in. He literally just leaves. It's just so weird to go from that and then be like, all right, guys, we'll see you later. Apparently Bret's done too, and so are we. Just that whole thing is just a bad recipe for a main event in general, putting Disco against Bret.
It was, but nobody cared. Nobody fucking cared.
I think Disco cared. I think Disco went out there and made fun of Canada and Utah. All right, he cared so much that he tried to get heat with people that he felt like, maybe there's like 4 Canadians here. It's Utah. It's northern. Maybe he'll get a couple of them. So I think he tried too hard, actually. But once again, the whole thing with that match was Disco really didn't have a real chance of coming even close to making even just a comeback. And which once again, when you have 2 heels, you don't have a face in peril. So you don't have it doesn't make sense then for Disco to try and get back in the match, because who's going to pop to that? The answer is fucking nobody. So in the end, like, what was the point of this weird match that basically was just Bret Hart just giving Disco the business? It's not main event material is what I'm getting at. This could have been in the middle of the card.
No, that's fair. That said, that is our Thunder. That is our show this week.
And despite Thunder being pre-taped, hopefully this podcast didn't feel like a pre-taped Thunder. But if it did, let us know how we did. You can always, subscribe, review, and, follow us on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook, all that. And you can always go to thundercraps.com to hear all of the previous 51 episodes. And then go check out Thunder 53. It is March 4th, 1999. It'll be a live show now. Maybe we'll get Tori Wilson showing up. Maybe we'll get some more Blitzkrieg. And maybe we'll find out exactly what is going to transpire between Stevie, Ray, and Vince. For Kyle Hogan, I'm Josh Kaiser, and we will see you next time on the Thundercrafts podcast.
We are Singaporeingly out of time. See ya.